Once a week you'll pay me for protection. My name is Simeon.
Come on, get up, come on.
We kick things off with a cop named Green. His job, delivering a pile of cash to a big shot prisoner named Ballum. Now, Ballum isn't your average inmate. This guy is living large behind bars with his own fancy setup and even private guards. He's a drug kingpin who somehow manages to keep his empire running like clockwork, dealing drugs, weapons, and even people, all from the safety of his cushy prison cell. Funny thing is, Ballum actually prefers staying locked up. It keeps him safe from all the assassins gunning for his $1 million head. Meanwhile, new inmates are being shuffled into the prison and shown to their cells. Among them is Jack Stone, a guy with a reputation. Jack's in for killing a cop during a heist. Officer Green isn't a fan and wastes no time punching Jack in the gut, warning him that his days in prison are numbered. But let's rewind a bit. Just a week earlier, Jack and his buddies pulled off a bank robbery. It wasn't just about the money, though. They were after hard evidence to blow the whistle on corruption involving shady government officials and dirty cops who were in cahoots with Ballum. Jack made a clean getaway with both the cash and the intel, but his escape didn't last long. The cops tracked them down, and things got messy fast. Jack's two partners ended up dead in a hail of bullets, but Jack wasn't going down that easily. He fought off several officers and managed to slip away into a nearby building. Just when he thought he was clear, another cop showed up. Here's where things got wild. Jack pulled off his mask, revealing he was actually one of them, a fellow police officer. The other cop was too stunned to react, so Jack pushed him off a ledge, causing both of them to fall. The cop didn't survive, but Jack did. Turns out this wasn't random. The cop Jack killed had been involved in the murder of Jack's wife, so this was personal. Afterward, Jack handed over all the incriminating evidence to a journalist named Trisha, asking her to dig deeper and take the findings to the prosecutor's office. Back in prison, Jack is bunked with a guy named Silva. During lunch, trouble brews when a thug named Semyon, who also happens to be Ballum's cousin, starts shaking down a newbie for protection money. The newbie refuses, and Semyon doesn't take it well. He beats the guy to a pulp. Then Semyon makes the mistake of turning his attention to Jack. Before Semyon can even get a word out, Jack floors him and his goons in one swift move. The guards throw Semyon and his crew into solitary, while Jack goes back to enjoying his lunch, like nothing happened. Later, Jack is brought to a room where he gets a message from Ballum through a surveillance camera. Ballum warns him to stay out of his business and reminds him of his role in Jack's wife's murder. But Jack doesn't seem fazed. That night, 3 inmates sneak into Jack's cell to attack him, but Jack handles them like a pro. Silva doesn't even wake up during the fight. Meanwhile, Trisha is hard at work piecing together the evidence Jack gave her. She's determined to expose the corruption, but knows she has to tread carefully. She heads to the prosecutor's office, hoping to hand over the files, but the prosecutor is conveniently busy. Instead, she's told to leave the documents with Mark, the assistant. Trisha isn't buying it and decides to wait for the prosecutor herself. After meeting Jack in prison, Trisha lets him know she's on the case. Jack tells her to stay safe and make good use of the intel he provided. Back in his cell, Jack reminisces about his late wife, fueling his resolve to take down Ballum. Following the showdown with Semyon, another inmate named William warns Jack to stay alert. But Jack shrugs it off, saying he's not afraid of Semyon or Ballum. Jack then starts digging for info on Ballum's secretive location within the prison. William tells him that not even the guards know for sure where Ballum is kept. It's that top secret. Meanwhile, the story shifts to a women's prison where 2 inmates are going at it in a fight. When the guards break it up, one of the women, Elena, is hooded and taken somewhere else. Turns out, she's brought before Ballum and a crowd of prisoners. Here's the deal. Semyon and some other inmates have been skimming profits from drug sales without Ballum's knowledge, and Elena has her own beef with one of Ballum's trusted allies. Ballum, always the showman, announces a deadly competition, Anyone who can kill Jack Stone and bring back his severed head will walk away with $10,000. William decided it was time to spill the beans to Jack. Meanwhile, the other prisoners started plotting against Jack, all pumped up about winning Ballum's deadly little competition. But thanks to William's support, Jack made quick work of all those guys. On the other side of things, Ballum got a call from District Attorney Johnson. The DA had some nerve, warning Ballum that a journalist had evidence linking corrupt cops and government officials to his shady operations. Johnson didn't waste time either. He passed on Ballum's orders to silence this reporter. At the same time, Ballum promised to get rid of Jack before the day was over. Later, Jack was working in the prison's laundry room when, out of nowhere, the warden himself decided to rough him up. This time, the beating was no joke. It left Jack bruised and battered. As if that wasn't enough, a gang of inmates gathered outside, ready to jump him. But Jack had other plans. He told them, "Look, if 100 grand gets split between all of you, that's barely 11 grand each. Not worth the trouble." Surprisingly, the math worked, and the gang backed off, leaving him alone. Meanwhile, Trisha was busy spilling the tea to her friend Allison, filling her in on Ballum's dirty business and his ties to corrupt officials. Over in the women's prison, things got wild. Elena approached Kat, one of Ballum's top goons, supposedly to apologize on Ballum's orders. But it was all a setup. Elena goaded Kat into a fight, letting Kat beat her up while she pretended to pass out. This was part of her plan, and it worked like a charm. Elena got sent to the hospital for treatment. Once the medical staff left, Elena got down to business. She unshackled herself, grabbed some booze and drugs, and stashed them in a mop bucket William often used. Then, she sneaked into the air vents to locate the surveillance cameras around the prison. While she was pulling this off, Trisha visited Jack in jail to give him updates about the chaos caused by Ballum's crew. Elena, knowing the camera positions, quickly slipped back to her hospital bed before anyone noticed she was missing. Jack, meanwhile, started putting pieces together. He asked William how long he had been undercover. Turns out, Jack already knew William wasn't a real prisoner. William was actually an FBI agent posing as an inmate to gather evidence against corrupt cops and Ballum's network. Elena, it turned out, was also part of this covert mission, and she'd been working with William for 6 months. As they talked, some inmates decided to ambush them, leading to a scuffle. Jack ended up in solitary confinement, and William got called to the warden's office. Warden Blaine, always looking to make a buck, threatened William, demanding cash in exchange for safety. Blaine made it clear that without security money, William wouldn't survive in the prison. Outside the prison, Trisha tried once again to meet with DA Johnson, but his assistant, Mark, claimed the prosecutor was busy. Mark suggested handing over the evidence to the FBI instead, but Trisha wasn't buying it. Meanwhile, Ballum's daughter showed up at the prison for a visit, forcing Ballum to step out of his cell. This was the break William and Elena had been waiting for. As Ballum stepped out, Elena faked being unconscious to get closer to her target. When a guard tried to intervene, Elena and William quickly neutralized him. William then infiltrated the control room while Elena slipped into the CCTV monitoring area, disguised as a staff member. As Ballum's daughter unleashed her anger at her father, Elena spotted on the cameras that Ballum was heading back to his cell. William wasted no time. He unlocked Jack's solitary confinement cell, setting him free. Jack, dressed as a guard to avoid suspicion, followed Elena's and William's lead. By now, the warden had realized something was up. He and his team discovered the CCTV room had been breached, and chaos erupted across the prison. William, running out of options, decided to open all the prison doors, creating complete mayhem. Inmates poured out, attacking guards and each other. Amid the madness, Jack confronted Green, who was trying to escape the prison. Jack wasn't having it. He shoved Green into the mob of angry prisoners who beat him senseless. William and Elena were also fighting off attackers left and right, keeping their focus on the mission. When Jack finally reached Ballum, Semyon showed up, and the two enemies clashed again. Semyon managed to stab Jack in the stomach, but even that didn't stop him. Jack fought back with everything he had, eventually defeating Semyon. Meanwhile, back outside the prison, Trisha faced her own life-threatening moment. The prosecutor and Allison had conspired to kill her and destroy the evidence she had gathered. Just as Allison was about to strike, Mark, who turned out to be an undercover FBI agent, intervened and saved Trisha. Mark had been posing as a staff member in the prosecutor's office to investigate corruption from the inside. Inside the prison, William confronted and eliminated Warden Blaine and his corrupt guards. Jack finally found Ballum, and the two faced off in an intense hand-to-hand battle. When Jack seemed to be on the verge of defeat, he thought about his late wife, which gave him the strength to overpower Ballum and take him down for good. By the time the SWAT team arrived to secure the prison, the chaos had settled. William introduced Jack to his FBI boss, who congratulated them on dismantling Ballum's entire operation. Both inside and outside the prison, Ballum's empire had been crushed. Jack thanked William and Elena for their help in avenging his wife. In the aftermath, the FBI arrested all the corrupt officials and police officers who had been working with Ballum. Jack, still in custody, was offered a deal by William to join the FBI as his partner. Jack accepted, finally getting a shot at a fresh start. The takeaway? Stand up for what's right, no matter how tough things get. Jack and Trisha showed us that fighting for justice is worth it, even if the odds seem impossible.